Welcome. The Fortress of Knowledge presents The Heater from Van Meter, the story of Bob Feller. From high school phenom to World War II hero. In the small Iowa town of Van Meter, population barely a few hundred, a boy named Bob Feller spent his childhood working the family farm and dreaming about baseball. His father, Bill Feller, built a homemade diamond right in the middle of their cornfield, complete with a backstop made from chicken wire and scrap wood. When chores were done, young Bob would take the mound, his father catching for him until the sun disappeared behind the hills. The farm built more than crops, it built strength. Throwing bales of hay, hauling grain, and working the plow forged the muscle behind one of the fastest arms the game would ever see. Locals began talking about the kid who could throw so hard the ball seemed to vanish. They started calling him the Heater from Van Meter. By 1936, that nickname was about to go national. At just 17 years old, Feller signed with the Cleveland Indians, straight out of high school without ever spending a day in the minor leagues. When he made his major league debut that August, baseball's old guard didn't know what hit them. In his first official start, he struck out 15 St. Louis Browns, tying an American League record. 2 months later, he fanned 17 Philadelphia Athletics. He was still a teenager, but already a sensation. And yet, when the season ended, Bob Feller did something few professional athletes would ever consider. He went home. He returned to Van Meter High School to finish his senior year, sitting once again in the same classrooms where he'd once been just another farm kid with big dreams. He attended classes, finished his coursework, and even posed for the school yearbook. Reporters from across the Midwest came to see the big leaguer back in homeroom, but to his teachers and friends, he was still just Bob. In June 1937, he proudly graduated with his classmates, the only major league player in history to pitch professionally before finishing high school. Over the next few seasons, the Heater from Van Meter became one of the most dominant pitchers in baseball. He led the league in strikeouts year after year, won 24 games in 1939 and in 1940 through the only opening day no-hitter in Major League Baseball history. A record that still stands. His fastball, timed by military equipment, was clocked at over 98 miles per hour, though many believed it was even faster. He was only 22, already a national hero. But then came December 7th, 1941, the attack on Pearl Harbor. The next day, Bob Feller made a decision that would change his life and define his legacy. Without waiting to be drafted, he enlisted in the United States Navy. He was the first major league player to volunteer for active combat service after Pearl Harbor. Feller turned down an offer to serve in a comfortable stateside assignment. Instead, he trained as a gun captain aboard the USS Alabama, a South Dakota-class battleship. His duty station was a 40mm anti-aircraft battery, where he and his crew fought through some of the fiercest campaigns of the Pacific, including Tarawa, the Marshall Islands, the Philippines, and Okinawa. He served for nearly 4 years, earning 8 battle stars and numerous commendations. In interviews later in life, Feller said those years were among his proudest. "I was just a small part of a big machine, but I was proud to do my job. It was a war that had to be won." When the war ended, Bob Feller came home to Cleveland. He hadn't thrown a professional pitch in almost 4 years, yet in his first game back, he struck out 12 batters. By 1946, he was again the best pitcher in the game, leading the league with 26 wins and 348 strikeouts. Fans called it one of the greatest comebacks in baseball history. Over an 18-year career, Feller would finish with 266 wins, 2,581 strikeouts, 3 no-hitters, and 12 one-hitters. But he never let statistics define him. In 1962, he became the first pitcher ever elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame on the first ballot. When asked what he was proudest of, he didn't mention any of those records. Instead, he said simply, "Serving my country in World War II was the greatest honor of my life. Baseball was part of what I did, but being an American sailor was who I was." Today, his hometown of Van Meter, Iowa, still celebrates his legacy. The Bob Feller Museum, built near the same main street he once walked to school on, tells the story of a boy whose arm made history and whose heart reminded the world what patriotism and humility look like. He was the Heater from Van Meter, a farm kid who threw fire, a warrior who fought for freedom, and a man who proved that true greatness begins long before the spotlight ever finds you.